Today, we're going to meet a totally new kind of teammate, one that's been built from the ground up to handle one of the most demanding jobs you can imagine, sales. So let's meet Omega, an AI specifically designed to be a sales team's ultimate secret weapon.
Just think about that for a second. Sales today, it's just this constant whirlwind of data, documents, deadlines, you name it. So what if you could give your team an assistant that's always on, always learning, and right there, ready to help exactly where they're already working? Well, that's precisely the problem that Omega was built to solve. Okay, so let's really dive into this. We're talking about something way beyond your average generic chatbot here. Omega is a highly specialized AI agent, and it has one very clear mission: to help sales teams close more deals. See, Omega isn't just fetching random bits of information. It's actively supporting the entire sales process from start to finish. It automates those tedious, repetitive tasks, it pulls out the key insights from all that data, and it gives real-time advice. And here's the best part. It does all of this based on a company's own unique playbook, what we're calling its sales framework. So you're probably wondering, how does Omega actually do all this? How is it different from a standard AI? Well, the real magic is in its architecture. Let's pop the hood and take a look at its collaborative brain. Omega is what's known as a multi-agent system. Now, what does that mean? Well, instead of having one single AI trying to juggle everything, it's actually a team of specialized AIs that work together. This setup lets it handle really complex problems, assign different roles for a task, and, most importantly, check its own work. You can think of it like a little three-person team working inside the machine. First up, you have the sales agent. It acts like the manager. It looks at your request and figures out a plan of attack. Next, the primary agent gets to work. It's the doer, the one who actually executes the plan. And then finally, and this part is absolutely crucial, the critic agent steps in. It's the quality control, reviewing everything before it ever gets back to you. And that right there, that's the secret sauce. That final review by the critic agent is like a built-in safety net. It's specifically designed to catch errors and cut down on those weird hallucinations or inaccuracies that generative AI can sometimes spit out. It's a system with its own built-in proofreader. So now that we know about this internal team of agents, what can Omega actually do for someone on, say, a busy Tuesday afternoon? Let's take a look at its real-world superpowers. First off, it lives exactly where the team works, right inside Slack. No new app to learn. It's connected to the team's files on Google Drive. It can pull fresh company data through something called the Apollo API. And as we said, it's been trained on the company's internal sales framework. The point is, it's integrated, not isolated. Okay, this is where it gets really, really practical. You can literally hand Omega a client's request for proposal, an RFP, and ask it to instantly create a list of smart, insightful questions for your next big call. It'll read the client's document, understand the context, and generate a brand new, totally useful tool for you in just a few seconds. And because it knows your company's sales playbook inside and out, it can be your first line of defense. You can ask it to scan a contract for potential risks. We're talking hidden financial penalties or super tight deadlines in those service level agreements, the SLAs. It automatically flags anything that doesn't quite line up with your team's best practices. Need to do some quick research on a potential new client? Instead of jumping between a dozen different browser tabs, you can just ask Omega. Through its Apollo connection, it can instantly pull key details like their industry, their employee count, and even the specific technology they're using. It's a massive time saver. And getting started is about as simple as it gets. You just invite Omega into a Slack channel, mention it with your question or task, and it'll answer right back in a thread, which keeps the main channel nice and clean. It's designed to feel just like you're talking to another human team member. All right, now for some real talk. No tool is perfect, right? And when it comes to AI, being transparent is everything. Omega is incredibly powerful, but it's really important to understand its current boundaries, its rules of engagement. So understanding what Omega can and can't see is the key to using it effectively. It has access to any Google Drive files you connected to and what's happening in its current Slack channel. But, and this is a big one, it cannot browse the live internet. It can't see into other Slack channels, and it doesn't have access to systems like Salesforce. Well, not yet anyway. Knowing this helps you understand why it might not have an answer for everything you ask. So here are a few super important tips to keep in mind. First, always double check its work, especially any facts or links, because it can hallucinate or just make things up. Second, it currently has no memory of your past conversations. Once a task is done, it's a clean slate. And finally, be careful. If you ask it to check a live website, it can't, but it might actually try to fool you and pretend that it did. But here's the thing, this is just the beginning. Omega isn't a static tool. It's constantly being updated and improved. So where is this AI sales hero headed next? Let's take a quick look at the development roadmap. This roadmap shows a really fascinating journey. Soon, Omega's going to get a personalized memory, so it can remember context from past conversations. It's also set to integrate with major platforms like HubSpot and Salesforce, giving it deep client history. This all leads to advanced automation, and eventually, it'll even be able to set reminders. It's an evolution from a reactive assistant to a truly proactive partner. You know, when you zoom out, this all points to a much bigger picture. Omega is an amazing example of a highly specialized AI built for one very complex job. And it really makes you wonder, as these tools get smarter, more capable, and more integrated, is every professional team in every industry soon going to have a custom AI agent like this working right alongside them? Now that is something to think about.